joined us yesterday, you will have seen Katie doing a food waste recipe. And yesterday it was Stop Food Waste Day, but as always on our shows, we like to make a big deal of the things that we think are a big deal. So we're making Stop Food Waste Day last at least 3 days. So there was Katie yesterday, me today, and then Nikki tomorrow. And so we will all be giving you great ways to reduce your food waste. So as you guys know, I'm going to get up the live on my computer here. So excuse me just a sec whilst I do that. And then that means that I can see your questions, which means that I want your questions. The beauty of doing a Facebook Live is that you guys can ask us questions and we can answer. So it's super annoying to be watching cookery shows and want to ask questions and you can't. But we have the benefit of you being able to do that. So let me just see if we have the live up here. Yes, we do. I can see myself, which is great. But more importantly, I can see you guys. So I can see Colleen. Welcome back. Hope as well, and Louise, and it says 4 other people, but it's not actually telling me who it is. So hello to you all. Thank you for joining me. Colleen said this is perfect. She made the aloo gobi last night and saved the leaves. That's perfect. So yes, today we will be learning about how to cook with cauliflower leaves. And it said, looking forward to today's session. Thank you for coming back to us, Anne. And just before we kick off, there is a rainbow in my kitchen, but it's so easy, and you guys are well practiced at finding rainbows that I'm not going to even ask you where it is, because you already know. Colleen will probably have been first to the mark, no doubt. She's like a black belt in rainbow spotting. But the question is, what is at the end of our rainbow today? So can you see what is at the end of the rainbow? It is not an artist's impression of something, it is a chef's impression of something. So please be kind about my skills. I did go to art college, but you know, it's been a while. So, and Tony, hi from Newcastle. Thank you for joining us. And Lara, thank you for joining us. I was just actually chatting to Lara, and she's currently thinning her lettuces, which sounds really lovely, a lovely thing to do today. Jennifer said this looks delicious. It is really delicious, really simple recipe. So first of all, let's have a chat about cauliflower leaves. So these are well, this is our stalk, obviously, and here are a few of our leaves. Cauliflower leaves are really tasty. So what do they taste like? So they taste very similar to bok choy or pak choy. This central stem here is very juicy. It's got a lot of water content in it, and it's quite firm as well in some of the pieces. You know, some of the pieces are firmer and thicker than others, but that central stem there is very juicy. So it's really nice to crunch down on. Colleen, it says you're already guessing what's at the end of the rainbow. It's not a cauliflower leaf. No, it's not. And it's not a cauliflower. Now, I did think about drawing a cauliflower, and then I thought, no, that seems really hard, so I didn't. So basically, when you're guessing at what's at the end of my rainbow, you can pretty much discount anything that's really difficult to draw. There you go. That gives you another tip. Sorry, I've missed a few questions. Let me just go back up. Dee said you can also add leaves and stalks in usual cooking, aloo gobi, roasted cauliflower, but this sounds like a wonderful way of using them differently. Yes, there is lots of ways of using them. As I was just saying, it does have the texture and flavour very similar to bok choy, so therefore you can use it in stir fries in any way that you would regularly use bok choy. So we have this central stem that I said is quite juicy and quite firm, so it gives a really great crunch, a really great texture to a dish. And then these leaves are quite delicate. They are quite delicate. So they will wilt down very quickly. But if you're okay with that, then you know you can just put them in at the same time. That's not a problem at all. And should have said, is it a potato at the end of the rainbow? No, it's not. It's not a potato. It has something to do with today's recipe. So there you go. There's another clue. And also potatoes. I think I would really struggle to draw a potato. I could draw Mr. Potato. Do you remember Mr. Potato? I had one one of those when I was a kid, and I was absolutely in love with him. Like, I wanted to marry Mr. Potato. I was so excited to see Mr. Potato in the Toy Story films. Anyway, back to a recipe. Yes, so these leaves are quite delicate. One of the things that I really like doing with these is just mixing them with a little bit of olive oil, some salt, and then roasting them whole. One of the benefits of roasting them whole is that we get these lovely shapes. So here, I saved one of these. So if you see this, it's one of the really delicate leaves, one of the younger leaves. And when you roast it, you'll get a really nice curl that will accentuate. This might blacken slightly, the edge of the leaves might blacken slightly, which is absolutely fine. Because as I said, the leaves are quite delicate, but the stem isn't. So, you know, the leaves may almost kind of like dry out, but it's really, really lovely. So you get that crunch of the leaf, and then you go into the stem, which is, you know, it has that lovely texture to it. Antoni! Antoni is today's winner. It is a lemon. It is a lemon. And at the end of the show, I will, like I did last time, I will give you a close up so that you can inspect my artistry skills. Please don't give me points out of 5. Please, 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 please. Sarah, yes, you were a moment too late. Antoni already had it. Abigail, bunny girl, thank you for joining us. And Chrissy, hello, hi. So as I was saying, these are really, really lovely with just a little bit of olive oil, some salt, and roast them. Really, really nice. And then you get these really lovely shapes. And you know, if you have them like that, then it is a really nice just base for maybe like a whole smoked cauliflower sitting on top of it, which is very, very lovely. So we have the stem here, and with some of the stems that I get from, say, broccoli or romanesco or indeed cauliflower, I sometimes finely chop them and then pickle them, particularly with black mustard seeds. So black mustard seeds, or actually, sorry, in general, mustard, has a reaction with any type of cruciferous vegetable, particularly things like broccoli and cauliflower, and then the mustard paired with the goodness that's in the vegetable is really, really great for fighting cancer. So don't quote me on that because I'm a chef and I don't know the science behind it, but I did read a really interesting article about how combining those two things together has very good anti-cancer properties. So if that's something that interests you, please do go and research it properly, because as I said, I'm only a chef. Colin said hi from South Africa. Hello. Okay, so I have prepared all of our ingredients today already, so we can go through it a bit quicker, and I can talk a lot more, which, you know, I love to do, but also you guys can talk back to me too. So we already have most of our cauliflower leaves already chopped up, and so I have chopped them about thumb width. Yeah, thumb width. There we go. About that wide. Okay, so basically with this, as with any veg, the thinner you cut it, the quicker it will cook. So I will just finish off by chopping the remainder of these, and I am just being really, really, really rough with it and really quick. There we go. And just to say as well, the cauliflower that I use is organic. So if that's a concern, you know, then just bear that in mind. Give it a really good wash before you use the leaves as well. Paul said that he's been listening to radio from South Africa recently here in Ireland. Oh, interesting, good connection. So we will just quickly chop this up as well. I'm going to leave that very, very end bit of the stalk because it's really quite tough, but just roughly chop all the rest of it. And we just want these to be in smallish pieces. We want everything to cook around the same time. So I'm just doing them in sticks like that. So just, you know, when you're cooking vegetables together, you do have to bear that in mind, that you want things to be roughly the same roughly the same size, and to cook for around the same amount of time. So as I said, we have our stem pieces that I've just done into little chips like that, and that's probably around the same thickness as, say for example, this. So it's really about the thickness rather than the length. There we go. So I know that they're going to cook for around the same amount of time. So in here I have the leaves and the stalk of a medium-sized cauliflower. So I think that this will feed 2 people with a rice on the side. Hi Sue, hi Sue, thank you for joining us. Thank you for joining us. So for the moment we can just put this to one side, and we have our new teammate here again today, who still doesn't have a name. Our lovely new Hob, which means that I can face you guys this way, I can look you in the eyes, and then yes, so we've got a nice wide pan here. We just want to make sure that things aren't crowded too much. You know, you can use like a little pan, you end up like piling it really quite high, and we don't want to do that. And just before we go into this, you know, I'll tell you kind of why I'm doing it this way and not another way. As someone quite rightly pointed out before, you know, there's lots of different ways to use cauliflower leaves and the stalk. Cauliflower is a really great blank canvas for any type of flavour that we want to put on top of it. So it really holds up very well with strong flavours. So spices, you know, kind of like salty ingredients, smokiness as well. So there is actually a recipe on our website for a whole smoked cauliflower, which is absolutely divine, really lovely. And you know, hot spices as well. So things like, you know, mustard and that type of spice, but also chilies work really well with this. And also it's because it doesn't have, you know, much of a colour, you know, this bit doesn't have much of a colour, it takes on colours very well as well. So things like turmeric, I also use beetroot powder on it as well, really work well with this. So let's start our recipe. As ever, we will be sharing the written recipe in our community hub, so gives you a really good excuse to join it, basically. But we are now also putting the recipes onto our website as well, so it would be great to hear if you guys have been finding the website, if you've been making any recipes from the website. Now, I just added some olive oil into my pan. That's the type of oil that I feel comfortable using, but you use whatever you feel comfortable using. Obviously olive oil will go really well with this dish that has a lot of Middle Eastern spices in it. So I'm just letting this warm up. Day, you must have a large font setting for the text on your laptop for you to read it so easily. Yes, I do, yes. We've been working on just making these things a bit easier for you guys to see. So, you know, it's always like a work in progress, but we're getting there, improving show by show. And the wire is touching the pan. Oh! Thank you, my love. Thank you. Oh, there we go. Just get it. Because it's new, it's a bit, yeah, the wire's a bit stiff. There we go. Thank you for alerting me to that. Just in case when it gets hot it doesn't damage the wire, thank you. And it's brand new as well. So I've got this to a decent heat. And in here we have either one, or the equivalent to one large onion, finely chopped. But my red onions were quite small. So this was actually 3 small red onions. And red onions rather than white, but you can use white if that's all you have. But red just gives it an extra flavour, a little bit of sweetness. Todd said, hi Dave, running a bit late. Ah, that's okay. We've literally just got on to starting the recipe properly. You know how much I can talk. Mick, thank you for joining us again. Okay, so we have our red onion that I have finely chopped, and I have finely chopped it very tinily, much as I could. So nice sharp knife when you want to cut this small, please. That really does help. So we'll just let these sweat for a few moments. I've got my tongs at the ready, not for the recipe, but for the smoke alarm. So let's see what happens today. Whether we'll get a toast alarm, as we call it in this house. It seems to only go off for the toast, so we might be okay. We might be okay. So with frying onions, with a recipe like this, we do want to really, really let them fry, which therefore helps that they are so small, because it means that that process isn't going to take too long. But one of the things that I see a lot of people doing wrong with their food is they don't cook the onions for long enough. Now, fair enough, you might not want to add too much oil. Absolutely fair enough. So you don't want to cook them for too long, because the oil dries out and then you get to the point where it's like, oh well, I don't want to burn them, so I best get on with the next bit of the recipe. But actually, what you can do is you can just add a smaller bit of oil, like I did, and then if it gets to this point where the pan is getting dry, some of them are starting to go brown, the oil is really starting to dry out, you can add just a dash of water. So adding just small splashes of water can really, really help you to limit the amount of oil that you use, but keep things cooking, keep things frying. With these onions, we really want to get them to be very, very soft. What's going on here? Abigail asked, by the way, I'm a trans woman, can I get trans rights? What conversation is that about? Did I completely miss something? Okay, so the red onions are starting to get a bit translucent, there we go. Sorry, some words are tricky. It's like, in real life, they're not tricky, and then when you go to say them on Facebook Live, they are tricky. How does that happen? How does that happen? I don't know. So we'll just add a little splash of water. There we go. Jim, thank you for joining us, and Bridget, thank you for joining us, and Goda. I don't think you've joined us before, so welcome. I think I would have recognised your name, because you've got a lovely, lovely, unusual name. And we collect unusual names and also people from different American states in this country, in these live recipes. Here we go. Okay, so they're starting to look a bit translucent. So at this point, I will add my garlic. I didn't want to add them together because, as I said, I was cooking the onion for quite a long time, relatively long time. I wanted the onion to start looking a bit soft and translucent, and if I had added the garlic at the same time, then the garlic would have started burning. Now the amount of garlic that I used, I said in the recipe 2 to 4 garlic cloves. I actually added 5. Rebel, I know that's what you're thinking. You can add as many as you want. It's absolutely fine. I try to get the large garlic because if you want to strip the skin from the garlic cloves and you've got tiny cloves, oh my gosh, I don't have enough patience to do that to small garlic cloves. Like life is too short for that, so I have to get the large garlic. So that's a good trick. Abigail just wanted to know how you felt about trans people. I hear there was a lot of anti-trans sentiment over there. What, in the UK? Not with me and my friends. No, not at all. Not at all. But is that what you've heard about the UK? Because that's really, really interesting. I mean, to be fair, I guess, there are different attitudes in different parts of the country, probably. I've lived in London and Brighton, 2 of the most liberal places in the country. But as long as you're happy, that's all that counts. Okay, so a few more splashes. There we go. And again, doing that with the garlic, just so that the garlic doesn't burn, but I want it to cook out a little bit more and get a bit more soft. So Bridget, I have all these things in my cupboard right now, even pomegranate molasses. That's amazing, that's amazing. I did actually psychically develop this recipe for you, Bridget. It's a service that I'm now offering. Oh my gosh, that would be difficult, wouldn't it? That would be difficult. Andrea joined. Thank you for joining us, Andrea. Andrea is one of our ex-students. She's one of our graduates. Very, 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 very talented she is too. Andrea actually works as a dietitian as well as being an excellent chef. So I love it when people bring those two things together. Nikki is, of course, like, you know, a good example of that too, because she is qualified as a nutritionist. So she has lots of information from that and can pair it with her knowledge of how to cook things. So not just kind of like why we should eat stuff like this, but how. How would you go about doing it? How would you go about making it really, really tasty? Okay, so this is about done. Now, Gloria, thank you for joining us. Good morning, or good afternoon, I should say. Okay, this is about done. Now, we will add our spices. I'm just going to add just a tad of water. There we go, because I don't want it to burn when I am getting our spices together. So first of all, we have some crushed chilies. Please do, you know, you use as little or as much as you want. So I'm going to be using half a teaspoon of this, and this is dried crushed chilies. There's a lot of seeds in there, so this is actually fairly spicy. So that's our chilies, and then we have our cumin, so around 1 teaspoon of that in there. But again, you know, feel free to play around with this because it's your recipe, you know, and you can just play around with the spices a little bit. So we're going to add a pinch of allspice. There we go, very common in Middle Eastern cuisine. And a touch of turmeric. So what you guys might not know is that I actually spent most of my career as a chef being a private chef. And one of the families that I cooked for was a Middle Eastern family. So I got to learn a lot of these lovely dishes from my boss's mum, who is about that high. Absolutely lovely woman. We're going to be adding half a teaspoon of ground cinnamon. There we go. So that collection of spices is very, very classically a collection of Middle Eastern spices. So we'll mix that in to our red onion and garlic. And, you know, one of the things with Middle Eastern food is that it is really, 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 really big on flavour, which is where I actually got a lot of my inspiration from, really. I'm going to add a good pinch of salt. There we go. More water. And now we can add our cauliflower leaves. And we want to mix this up really, really well, because we want all of that lovely flavour, all of those spices. Here we go, just turning it up a bit as well. We want all those lovely spices, you know, the onion and the garlic as well, the colour from the turmeric, to really mix in with the cauliflower stalks and the cauliflower leaves. There we go. And you'll be able to see that yellow from the turmeric coming through as well. Okay, let me just see if I have missed any questions. There we go. Andrea, have I tuned in too late? It's not playing. Oh, I think it's playing for everybody else, dear. I think so, yeah. Yeah, so it might be, occasionally we do get someone on who will say like the sound isn't good or something like that, but we do try and check it out with everybody else. And you guys are very, very good at commenting too, because it is really frustrating when you can't hear. You can see that something fabulous is going on, but you have no idea what is actually happening. Okay, so we'll just add a bit more water to that, and then I'm actually going to get something to put on top of it, because that will mean that this will cook a lot quicker. Okay, let me just see. chutney. Right, okay, good. Let's get one of these lovely big plates, because this thing is so big that this is the only thing I have to cover it. There we go. And so what this will be doing is kind of steaming our cauliflower leaves. So there we go, we can keep that on just for maybe about 5 minutes, something like that, and then we'll have a feel of the cauliflower stalks and see how much they are done. And we really just want to cook them until they are just cooked, because if we do that, then we'll be keeping quite a lot of the nutrition in there, but it's palatable, you know, and also like you'll get more of a like fresh flavour. So you know, like the difference between, say for example, having like a stir fry with crisp carrots in there and how lovely that is, you know, versus them being really soft. And, you know, they're very nice both ways, but there are different recipes for different methods of having that texture to a vegetable. Okay, so let me just see. Okay, Sarah said, would adding the mustard seeds with spices be a good addition to this recipe? Yes, definitely. That would be lovely. Chrissy says, like, need to TSB this. I'm not really sure what you're saying there, babe. Maybe it's predicted text, which is always a bit annoying. Does something need to TSB the screen? You might need to say that to me again, babe. Sound icon might come up. Okay. Abigail, just tried some watermelon kombucha yesterday. Oh my god, where was my invite? Next time, please. That sounds divine. Paul, if you click on share icon and use the right post option, others will be able to see this. Okay, I always do put across great bean cooking. Ah, thanks, Paul. Does she need to tap the screen? Okay, yeah, I think Paul might be able to help you out with that. So when I'm doing it, you know, because I do the admin when it's the other ladies who are doing the show, I just click on share. So I've got a little share icon with an arrow, but it's kind of like an arrow that's like going that way, and then that allows me to share it to my timeline. Okay, beautiful colour. This green is really like popping out now. So that paired with the yellow is divine. Absolutely divine. I think that this needs a little bit longer though. Let's just get a fork and test it. Yeah, definitely needs a bit longer. But as I said, I want to cook it until it is just cooked. And so to do that, you do need a fork alongside. So we'll just pop this down here. And our lid, actually I'll put it that way for now. There we go. And maybe another splash of water too. Okay. And just be careful if you're going to use a plate as a lid, that it is really quite hot. So I'm just adding enough liquid so that it doesn't dry out, so that it doesn't burn. But I don't want to put loads of liquid in there because this is quite a dry. It's quite a dry recipe, really. But it is going to get creamier in a moment because after this is cooked through, then we're going to add our tahini and our lemon juice. So just a few things to say about tahini and lemon juice. Oh, thank you for sharing. Thank you. That's really lovely of you. Chrissy says it was to the lady who said she had no sound. Sometimes you need to tap the screen. Thank you for that tip. I did not realise that. So sometimes you need to tap the screen to activate the sound. I will remember that. Okay, so yes, a few words about tahini and lemon juice. So tahini and lemon juice are really good balancers. Tahini, and now I think Nikki mentioned this on her last show, tahini can be quite a strong flavour, and some people can like it and like to have lots of it in, for example, their hummus or you know, recipe like this, and some people not so much. They like it to be a background flavour. But if you find that you've put too much tahini in your recipe, then you can really balance it out with lemon juice. And the three flavours that go together really, really, really well is tahini, lemon juice and garlic. And those three together just work beautifully. So if you just want to make like a plain, like a sauce to go on the side, then you know those three together are absolutely lovely. You might need to add some water because you know the tahini can be very, very dominant and it can just be a bit too thick, so you can just add some water to that. But those three, the tahini, the lemon juice and the garlic, beautiful, beautiful combination. It's why I call it like a triad of flavours, and it's lovely when you find these three flavours that go really, really well together. They'll complement each other, and that's a good go-to for a recipe like this. So we will add that in a moment. And then one other thing that I wanted to chat to you about was herbs. So with our herbs that we will be using today, I'll be using parsley, and the parsley that I'm going to be using is one that I regrowed from a pot that plant that I had bought from a supermarket. So rather than buying the bag, I'm nowadays, now that I've got space, I've got a garden, I'm actually buying the pots and then trying to regrow them. And so this was one that I had maybe a month ago, something like that, and I completely cut it down. So this is a parsley, and it's regrown really well, really well. And that's been outside. We've had some lovely weather at the moment, and I've been doing the same with basil. So this is one that is fairly new. I've taken a few leaves off it, but not much. And this is how it started out. And then I completely took all of the leaves off it, and then this one, and then started regrowing it. So that one a couple of days ago, it didn't have any leaves on it whatsoever, or if it did, then it was like really tiny leaves. But I just keep on watering them. I have them on the windowsill, which is a great place, particularly for things like basil. I've got a couple of corianders there at the moment as well, and I keep this plastic around them so that if it does get a bit cold, then I can just pull the plastic around them and they'll warm up, because particularly things like basil, coriander, they love it to be warm. That's why in this country really it's better if you put them into a greenhouse rather than have them outside, because you know what our weather can be like in this country. Yes. Yeah, we're going through that at the moment. We had lots of lovely sunny weather, and now not so much. Not so much of the lovely weather. Okay. This is pretty much cooked, I think. Yeah, there we go. I can just about get my fork into them, but there's still that crunch. That's the thing, I don't want to cook them so much that I'm going to lose that crunch. I really don't want that, because that is the beauty of cauliflower leaves. It's that crunchiness. So now I will add my tahini, and in the recipe, in the ingredients, it says that it's up here for you guys. I have given you options, so it's 1 to 2 spoonfuls of tahini. I like a lot of tahini, so I'm going to put 2 in. Well, it's more like 1.5 actually. But you've got to gauge that for yourself. So, there's a bit of independence that goes along with this recipe, which is never a bad thing. Never a bad thing. It's good to get you guys to think like that, to taste it and to see, like, do I want to adjust it? And then twice the amount of lemon juice to tahini. There we go. So I'll pop 3 in there. So 3 tablespoons of lemon juice to 1.5 of tahini, and I'll just mix it all up. And that tahini, it will be quite sticky. It's a bit like peanut butter, it's not very willing to just blend in with everything else. I think I've missed a few questions. Tahini, lemon juice and garlic go well together. Yes, thank you, Paul, for reiterating that. Sarah, Asian people I know use mustard seeds before adding onion. Would you recommend them or at the same time as the spices? So I actually did fry the spices a little bit. So you could add the mustard seeds just before that if you want them to fry and pop. Gemma, would herb plants work in hanging baskets hung by the window? I'm definitely going to try that. Jeff, if you're watching, let's definitely do that. Oh, Gloria's had lots of screen freezing today. Oh no! Let me know, is anyone else having that difficulty? Really tell me. Tell me. So do remember that these shows are always saved onto the Community Hub and also onto our website now. So you can actually see the live alongside the written recipe. Okay, so some people are struggling with seeing it and some people not. Okay. Oh. Okay, so that is pretty much done, but I'm just going to taste it because I want to know, do I need to add, it's hot, it's still crunchy. So I'm just going to add a bit more salt to this. Oh, it's nice and spicy as well. Really nice and spicy. And I'm just going to turn it down while I add some of this. So this is our parsley. And I'm literally just going to rip it up and pop it into the pan. So you can use parsley, you can use coriander if you prefer. I'm going to use the stalks as well. So recently I've started using the stalks of herbs. I was making a lovely omelette the other day, a tofu omelette, and used the really quite thick stalks of parsley, and it worked a treat. It worked an absolute treat. Okay, so we can move this over, and then we can plate up my lunch. Turn this guy up. Okay, so we've got our lovely cauliflower leaves in tahini and lots of lovely spices. Again, remember that the spices are so good for you. Really, really, really good for you. Either, this time of the year, any time of the year, really good for you. But, when it does get to winter, great for fighting bugs and colds and, that type of thing. So in here I have some majedra. So majedra is a it is a lentil and rice dish with spices, of course, more spices. But majedra was one of the things that I learned how to cook when I worked for the Middle Eastern family, and one of those dishes that I absolutely fell in love with. Right, I may as well have all of that. There we go. There we go. So, this has loads of protein in it because it's got the rice in there and it's got the lentils. Again, spices. When I was making the majedra the other day, I also put some spinach leaves in it, which is a really, really, really great way just to get a bit of added nutrition, get some extra greens into your diet. Really healthy for you. And we're just going to top it off with some pomegranate molasses. So this is just going to give it a little bit of sourness. And to be really careful when this comes out. And see, I'm shaking the bottle before anything's coming out. And the reason why is that if you don't do that, you just get like a big glob of it. So, with anything that's thick, you start shaking the bottle, you start moving it around before anything comes out. And then you get a nice even spread. So, now, let me just catch up with what you guys are saying. Abigail said that she loves spicy. I had picked up some habanero, salsa, and it was so strong. Habanero salsa sounds lovely. Karen said, did you add molasses? Did I miss that? Yes, so I added pomegranate molasses. There we go. It's the last ingredient at the bottom there, but it is optional. It is optional, but it gives a really, really nice sourness to a dish like this. You could also use something like sumac. Sumac is a really lovely Middle Eastern spice. Again, with that sourness. It's quite unusual for us to have this sourness. We don't have a lot of it in Western cuisine, so I love sourness and bitterness in any food. Paul said, can you overcook spices? I think if you're frying them, then yes, you could at that point overcook them and kind of burn them. So yes, you could overcook spices in that way. But actually, if spices are in something that's wet, you can't overcook them at all. And just the longer you cook it, the more spices are in something that's liquidy, something that's moist, the more those flavours mingle. And you guys may have found that with dishes that have a lot of sauce with them, they're actually nicer the day after. Karen said, never mind, I did say, okay, good, there we go. It's pomegranate molasses, really lovely ingredient, but as I said, it is optional. So to this, you could add something like, some toasted nuts on top, that would be lovely, or toasted seeds, just to give it a bit of extra crunch. But of course, we have the lovely crunchy texture of the cauliflower leaves. And it's still there. So soft enough to eat, but still crunchy enough. So it still gives us that texture. It's still got loads of nutrition going on in it. So this is my lovely dish from today, our food waste recipe. Now, tomorrow, Nikki will be sharing a really lovely granola recipe with us, and she will also be talking about her tips for food waste. We know that this is something that you guys want from us. We've asked you and that's what you said, and so of course that's what we're doing. So please do keep on suggesting the recipes that you want from us, the types of recipes, like this one with food waste, and we will oblige. So join us tomorrow for Nikki's recipe, and as always, have a lovely day.